now it's time for 3x3 Experiment by JCD. Comparing stories from ABC, CBS, and NBC. The never-ending 3x3.
Next tonight, we move on to that tense standoff at the U.S.-Canadian border. It appears to be coming to an end. Trucks that had been blocking the Ambassador Bridge, a vital thoroughfare between the two countries, being removed. Police facing off with hundreds of protesters remaining behind. The bridge still closed. Those protests against COVID restrictions spilling overseas now, including Paris. Police using tear gas there to disperse demonstrators. Here's ABC's Elwin Lopez tonight from Detroit.
Tonight, a showdown at the U.S.-Canada border. Police moving in, forming a line and holding it, step by step and face to face. Clearing out protesters blocking the busiest border crossing in North America. Our Ocean Sink is on the Canadian side.
This morning, protesters actually started evacuating the entrance of the Ambassador Bridge after a strong police presence. Now, it's been a few hours and they've left the bridge entrance, but they haven't moved far.
Who are you protecting?
The 6-day blockade of the Ambassador Bridge linking Detroit to Windsor, Ontario, bringing in a quarter of all trade between the two countries, came to a screeching halt, hammering the auto industry unable to get crucial parts into factories. And without them, production taking a hit, along with workers.
I've been in the company for 9 years. There's always changes that happen, but this is different.
General Motors forced to cancel several shifts. Automakers like Ford and Toyota scaling back. Now experts say factory workers in Michigan could lose more than $51 million in wages this week alone.
Automakers have already been struggling for the past year with the computer chip shortage, so this comes at a really bad time.
Demonstrators against COVID-19 mandates crippling Canada's capital for a third straight weekend. And tonight, the protests could possibly be spreading to the U.S. Buffalo bracing for truck convoys. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security warning of demonstrators potentially disrupting the Super Bowl tomorrow in Los Angeles and the State of the Union next month in Washington. And wet tonight, Windsor police tell me they're methodically moving protesters out, officials reiterating that they want this to end peacefully. Experts say if the bridge opens up soon, plants could be back up and running by early next week. Whit.
All right, Ellen, thanks.
Tonight, what began as a truck convoy protest in Canada against vaccine mandates has snowballed into a tense international standoff. Today, police moved to clear protesters from the Ambassador Bridge, the busiest U.S.-Canada crossing connecting Detroit and Windsor, Ontario. Tonight, CBS's Chris Van Cleve is there.
Weija, the Ambassador Bridge is responsible for 1/4 of the trade between the U.S. and Canada. Canada is America's largest trading partner. This is the protest that has kept that bridge shut down for 6 days now, something the police would like to see change.
Breaking down the border blockade. With Canadian police slowly moving in, anti-vaccine mandate protesters started clearing out Saturday, blasting their horns on the way. Angry stragglers stayed behind, confronting police.
Who are you protecting?
We're just as passionate about our Bill of Rights and in this country as you are about yours.
The law enforcement action follows a court order for protesters to move away from the Ambassador Bridge. The key border crossing carries 10,000 commercial vehicles a day between the U.S. and Canada, transporting about $325 million worth of goods. The now 6-day blockade has disrupted auto plants in Canada and several states. Analysts estimate it's cost car makers $700 million and counting.
So they have not caused mass outages just yet, but I think we're on the brink of them having that effect.
This is the third weekend of protests that began with a cross-country trucker convoy rolling into Canada's capital, Ottawa, bolstered by anti-vaccine groups.
The government needs to quit mandating stuff.
Protesters have also disrupted the border crossing at Coutts, Alberta, just across from Montana. The blockades have been condemned by the trucking industry and called illegal by Canada's Prime Minister. Bruce Heyman is the former U.S. ambassador to Canada.
There was no expectation that this group of people who were legitimately protesting would be radicalized by extremists, and they are being encouraged now quite actively, almost daily, by some extremists within the United States.
Even if this border closure is short-lived, analysts say it could take the auto industry months to catch up. And of course, there remains concern about similar protests starting on the U.S. side of the border. Weisha?
Chris, thanks. Canada's horn-honking protesters have led to copycat demonstrations in France. Today in Paris, police fired tear gas against people who defied orders to leave and told them to stop disrupting traffic near the Arc de Triomphe. Some 500 vehicles were stopped at checkpoints trying to enter the French capital.
In Canada, the police moved in on those truckers who have been blocking a major shipping route to the U.S. The truckers left, but the protesters are not over, and the bridge is not yet open. Now there are concerns similar protests may happen here. Cal Perry is at the bridge in Windsor, Canada.
The horns blared and the chants were defiant.
Freedom! Freedom!
And while the trucks are now gone from the so-called Freedom Convoy in Windsor, Ontario, protesters are still blocking access to the bridge used to transport hundreds of millions of dollars worth of goods between the U.S. and Canada each day.
I'm unvaccinated. You know, I can't even eat in that McDonald's.
Hundreds of demonstrators, including truck drivers, are protesting vaccine mandates. After a Friday night court order for protesters to disband, today, police moved in.
With the busiest land crossing in North America shut for nearly a week, trade was severely disrupted. And it seems like this show of force was exactly what leaders on both sides of the border wanted.
Even though police have pushed them back, protesters here are still declaring victory.
It's gone global, so actually we represent a peaceful movement globally.
In Paris, a copycat demonstration led to a more forceful response. Police deployed tear gas and removed protesters blocking traffic on the Champs-Élysées. And Canadian demonstrators say the U.S. should prepare for similar scenes.
I bet you $1,000 that freedom is contagious.
Super Bowl Sunday, they will be heading out of L.A., heading to D.C.
Ahead of tomorrow's Super Bowl in Los Angeles, the White House says it's surging additional Department of Homeland Security staff to California in anticipation of a possible convoy protest timed to the game. In Ottawa, Canada's capital, what police called, quote, unlawful occupation led to dozens of arrests as well as backlash.
This is not about freedom. This is a right-wing movement to seize power.
And Cal Perry is joining us from the scene of those protesters in Windsor. Cal, what's the latest?
Jose, at this hour, the Ambassador Bridge, which connects the United States and Canada, remains closed as protesters have only increased their presence in the area. All of this 24 hours, courts ordered people to leave. Jose?
Cal Perry in Windsor, thank you.
You're trying to make a statement and it just looks dumb.